Fair, accurate, to the point. This is Face the State on Montana's news station.
Good morning and welcome to Face the State here on the Montana Television Network. I'm Jay Cohn and we're joined this morning by Greg Gianforte. You've heard his name in the Montana news quite a bit in the last year. Most recently, a well-advertised commencement speaker at least two Montana colleges. Greg, thanks for joining us right now.
Jay, it's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy you took some time to join us here on MTN this morning and talk to our statewide audience. Greg, if you don't know, is the founder of Right Now Technologies, the Bozeman company that went public back in, I see, in 2004, and eventually you made a lot of money off that company. I'll ask you a little bit more about that. But let's talk about the elephant in the room right off the bat, Greg. Tell our viewers a little bit first how you got to Montana, then we'll talk a little bit about your demand as a commencement speaker this year. But you say you've been coming back to Montana ever since 96?
76.
76, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so, my wife and I have lived in Bozeman since 95, almost 20 years. We have 4 children. We've raised them there. Our daughter was born in Bozeman, so Montana's our home. But I had a junior high school teacher back on the East Coast that had 3 loves in his life. He loved his high school sweetheart. He loved aviation, and he flew fighter planes in World War II, trained at Malmstrom Air Force Base. And in the process, that was his third love. He fell in love with Montana. And on a junior high school teacher salary, the only way he could afford to come out here was to load up a van with 9th graders and drive across the country. And I came out on one of those trips in 1976, and I've been looking for a way to get back ever since. And I'm really thrilled to have called my Montana home for the last 20 years.
What were some of the sights you saw back in the late 70s?
Well, we went up, mostly we did backcountry trips. We were up in the Absarokas, up in the Alpine Lakes, and
nice.
Toured around and just had some adventure. And it was a lot of fun, but it went deep. Four individuals on that trip now call Montana home. So that teacher, it's never underestimate the impact that a teacher can have on their students' lives. And that gentleman we still see him. I've seen him. He lives up in the Poconos now. He's in his 90s. And anytime we have a chance, we go back and visit with him.
And I'm sure Montana's top of the conversation.
We do. I still get pictures at Christmas from that trip in 76, and we try and stay in touch and email with him and send him pictures, too, of our family growing up here.
Now, the Bozeman company, Right Now Technologies, is really what most people associate your name with. As I said, you went public in 2004, ended up selling that company to Oracle for $1.5 billion. What does Right Now Technologies do, and how did you make such a niche with that company?
Yeah, this is such a fantastic Montana success story. We combined the Montana work ethic with a good software idea, and that gave us a competitive weapon that was unmatched. My wife and I started the business in an extra bedroom of our house in 1997, and we doubled the revenue and the number of employees every 90 days for 2.5 years with no outside financing. And what we did, we were a software company, and we helped large corporations take better care of their customers. So if any of our listeners have ever bought a ticket from Orbitz or Travelocity or Expedia, basically everything under the customer service button on the homepage was our technology. We provided knowledge bases so consumers could find immediate answers. We also provided the software that ran in the contact center that the call center agents would use to keep track of all the conversations. In aggregate, we were one of the top 100 websites in the world. And the lesson there is that the internet removes geography as a constraint. And this is one of the things that I've been talking about more recently, is that I think our average wage in Bozeman at Right Now Technologies for our Montana employees was $86,000 a year, which is about 2.5 times the state average. And I firmly believe that the opportunity we had at Right Now Technologies was not unique. And I think the rest of the state could benefit from this. In fact, I think that every single community could have a component of high tech in their economy that would allow us to keep more of our kids here and not have to export them the way we do today to find a decent job.
So you took that company public and then you sold that company to Oracle, which now has kind of followed your model and is now the biggest employer in Bozeman, right? I mean,
that is correct. We were a little ahead of the curve. We were one of the first cloud companies where we delivered our software over the cloud. We started really before it was even called the cloud. We just thought it was a better way to deliver technology. And right now, technologies was the fifth business I had started. So I've been done this a number of times, and at least you get more scar tissue. You also figure out how to keep the truck out of the ditch, as you're driving. So it went it went fast, and there's no question we were incredibly blessed with the success we had. And the most rewarding thing for me was really that, about 45% of our employees in Bozeman were MSU grads. They were local Montana kids, and those kids could earn a decent wage and not have to leave the state. And that was an encouraging thing, and we made a difference. At the end of the day, when you can help corporations take better care of their customers, that's really critical to their long-term success. But there are tons of ideas. I've been spending most of my time now mentoring Montana entrepreneurs. I've done about 200 sessions in the last year, and it allows me to live vicariously through these other entrepreneurs, because I've done 5. I'm not sure I'm going to do another one. But we have some tremendous Montana companies that I think are going to be the next generation of economic engine for the state, just like Right Now was and now Oracle is. And I was pleased that every single one of our employees that wanted a job got a job from Oracle. Now, it's a different culture, so some have left, but they've started companies. We've had between 1 and 2 dozen businesses start up in Bozeman that have spun out of Right Now Technologies. And again, that provides kind of the next crop of companies that'll provide more opportunities for Montanans.
Fascinating story. I'm sure there's a book coming out soon. Really? Is there? There should be, if there isn't.
Well, I did write, I've written 4 books. The one that is most relevant, I think, particularly, is one called Bootstrapping Your Business. And I've had the incredible pleasure, and if anybody wants a copy, I'm happy to kind of give them away. They're kind of a way to just encourage people. When Susan and I got to Bozeman and said, hey, we're going to start a global software business in this Montana town.
And what did people say?
They said it's not possible. Can't do it here. And they gave us 4 reasons. They said there's no capital, you don't have the right people, there's not enough airline service, and the internet connections aren't good enough. And Jay, I'm really glad we didn't listen. And we just did it anyway. And it's been interesting as I travel around the state now and talk about the success that we enjoyed because of this Montana work ethic and the opportunity that the internet provides to create livelihoods here. People in towns all over the state tell us the same thing. And they say it can't be happening here. And then they list the same 4 reasons. And I kind of jokingly say to them, when we moved to Bozeman almost 20 years ago, back then, Bozeman was still part of Montana. But over that period, just from the wages, we've brought $5 billion into that local economy. And sure, it's changed things. But our downtown's vibrant. People are able to get jobs. Our son just graduated from Montana State University in December with a computer science degree. And he had 2 job offers in Bozeman. And he's now in Bozeman making a living at a great wage. And I just think we need more opportunities for the young people here in this state. And I think high-tech and high-tech manufacturing is part of that solution.
Great story. Greg Gianforte is our guest here on Face the State this Sunday morning. Greg, now you're delivering the commencement speech at Rocky Mountain College this weekend as we tape this program. You'll be there on Saturday. We're going to air the show right after that. You've also signed up to be the commencement speaker at Montana Tech and Butte a little bit later. There's been quite a reaction to you being invited to address the students at Montana Tech, much of it because of some of your views on other social issues. And I guess my question is your reaction to the reaction, and then whether that's fair game, whether they should have a reason to protest your appearance, because from what I've heard so far, you have a lot to share.
Yeah, well, I'm really, it's an honor to be invited, and we were, Susan and I were thrilled to be able to come to both commencement speeches, and our message is really focusing on some of the life lessons we've had. I found in my experience that, each individual is gifted in a unique way, and that ultimately we're all searching for satisfaction and contentment in our lives. And, as I said, I've had the truck in the ditch a bunch of times. And if I can share with these young people some of the experiences I've had, I want to do that, especially if it helps them, keep it on the road. And one of the biggest lessons, this is part of what I'm going to share, is that I've learned that the purpose of work is not to get a paycheck. Because if you focus on a paycheck, it's very hard to sustain passion, enthusiasm, and ultimately satisfaction in doing that. That the ultimate purpose of work is to serve other people. And every single job that's worth doing has a noble purpose in serving other people. So that's what I'm going to focus on. And hopefully that's helpful to the individuals. It's also unique, Jay. I will say that I've also been invited. I've spoken at Harvard and Stanford and Berkeley and Marquette and Cornell and London School of Business.
No protesters there?
No.
Just in Montana.
Correct. And I just think everyone's entitled to their opinion, and we have such great potential in this state. I'm going to focus on that potential and going forward.
So they picked on your views on creationism, for instance, which they say, I think one of the reasons that the science community and tech was a little concerned is, and maybe they still are concerned, was that creationists don't believe in science.
I'm a scientist.
And you're a scientist.
I have a master's degree in computer science. My wife has a master's and a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. We are scientists. The whole thing's absurd.
And you're just plotting straight forward, and I guess
I'm not. I just don't. I was CEO of a public company for 8 years. You learn that not everybody's your friend. So I think I've got an important message to share with these students. We are honored. It's a privilege to come and speak, and I'm very much looking forward to both events.
And I'm sure after hearing just a little bit of your message here today, that these commencement addresses are going to be worth listening to. Let's talk a little bit about your effort on education.
Yes.
You started this CODE program.
Yeah.
What's the full name?
Code Montana.
Code Montana. I'm
Yep.
sorry. And Code Montana is geared to get more kids to focus on science and computer technology.
That's correct. Yeah.
Which you point out wasn't the case just a few years ago.
Yeah, and let me put it in context, because I think it's important. My belief is that we have this big opportunity in the state. Particularly, Montana is 49th in the country in wage scale. 49th, right? And I think we can do better. And I think high tech and high tech manufacturing are an extremely important part. And I have a very simple. I've spent the last year after kind of finishing up at Oracle. I had to spend some time saying, okay, what am I going to do with the rest of whatever time I have? And I'm a guy who I like to fish and hunt, but I don't want to end up with a tombstone that said he caught a lot of fish. I think there's a higher and better purpose for each one of us in trying to use the skills that we've been given in some useful way. And I want to move the needle on this wage scale in the state. And if I spend the next 10 or 20 years giving back, Montana's our home. We live here, we've raised our kids here, and we want to stay here, but we want better outcomes for people. So I put together a business plan for the state called BetterMontanaJobs.com. And there's two components to it. Well, three components. One is, if we want higher wages in the state, I believe we got to create jobs in industries that have higher wages. And if you look at the U.S. Department of Labor data, number one is natural resources. And we got some great things going on in the Bakken. That's to be encouraged. But not every community has natural resources. So it kind of brings you to number two. Number two on the list is high tech. Number three is manufacturing. So it's a pretty simple idea, this business plan. Let's focus on high tech and high tech manufacturing. To do that, I think two things are required. One is we need more entrepreneurs. In my narrative, the entrepreneur is the hero, because they're the spark that gets these things started. And I'm spending a lot of time with the entrepreneurs around the state, giving them copies of my book, mentoring them, doing startup weekends. There's a whole bunch of things there. Organizing the companies that have kind of launched. The second component is we've got to train our young people to be ready for these jobs. And one of the things I found out, Jay, was that last spring, the university system in Montana, MSU, Montana Tech, and University of Montana combined, only graduated 40 kids with computer science degrees. Now, some might think, well, high tech, that's good for the geeks. But the reality is, at Right Now Technologies, only 10% of the jobs were software development. The other 90% were marketing, sales, accounting, lawyers. But if we didn't, the geeks were kind of like our seed corn. If we didn't have them, none of the rest of the business. So I believe that the high-tech industry in Montana could absorb about 400 computer science graduates a year. And these jobs start at $45,000 to $85,000 a year right out of school, and we only got 40. So the reason we did, that's the background, the reason we did Code Montana was to encourage more high school kids to consider whether they might study computer science at college. We launched it in September. We said we'll try and get 1,000 kids in it in the first year. Well, in 5 months, we got 1,200 kids signed up. It was an amazing success.
Good for you.
We set a new goal of getting to 5,000 kids by next spring of 15. And even more important, Montana Tech, the head of the computer science department there, Jeff Braun, just told me recently, their applications for computer science majors in the fall have gone up 3x over last year. So we're starting to actually move the needle on the number of kids in the state that may study computer science. I don't have the numbers for MSU or U of M yet, but I know at Bozeman High School, we now have 120 kids studying computer science starting in September, where we only had 20 this past year. So we're really starting to make a difference.
The interesting thing to me is that this idea came from the private sector. You would think that those folks in Montana who are, paid to serve the state could have figured that out themselves, but it took that seed you were talking about, that spark, and now obviously people are going, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. And not only that, but the message is resonating with the young people.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, if our listeners have high school kids or they have grandkids that are in high school, this is a free program for every high school student in the state. You just go to codemontana.org, sign up, you get free access to essentially Stanford University's computer science first semester curriculum, but designed for high school students, free of charge. There's no cost whatsoever. And the Montana Programmers Association, which is a group of about 800 people that make their living from computer programming, are the mentors. So even if somebody doesn't know exactly, but maybe you have a child or a grandchild who just kind of loves math and science, they ought to go check out codemontana.org. And we've seen a number of situations. I know I was just in, I've told this story a number of times, but I got an email from a gal in Reed Point who was a teacher there, and she said, well, I have some questions about Code Montana, and I emailed her back. This is back last fall. And an hour later, I got an email, and she said, well, I signed the whole high school up. All 15 of them. All 15, yeah. But the interesting, 2 weeks later, I emailed her, and I asked her how it was going, and she said, well, I have this one student who's really taken off. And I was coming over here to Billings from Bozeman, and I stopped in to visit with this young guy, and it was really neat meeting with him, because he loved coding as a result of Code Montana. He'd never coded before. And he had just that day made the decision, or that week made the decision, he's going to UM for computer science starting in the fall. He's a senior in high school. So we may have had a hand in actually changing the direction of his life. And that's why we did Code Montana. It's for the economy, but it's also to create some brighter futures for our kids.
Great story. Now, you just told me about the High-Tech Business Alliance, which I guess is maybe an extension of the Code Montana into the private sector. But tell us about that, because you just hired a statewide director.
We did.
And in our discussion about it before the show, you were talking about these are high-tech firms that aren't necessarily Main Street businesses, and they're kind of out of sight, out of mind.
That's true, yeah. And again, this fits back into this overall bettermontanajobs.com, entrepreneurship and education. Well, this High-Tech Alliance fits under the entrepreneurship category. We have a very vibrant high-tech and high-tech manufacturing industry in the state, but they're nearly invisible because they don't have any customers here in Montana. They typically bring revenue in from outside, which makes the economic pie bigger for all of us, but they didn't have a voice. So I made a few phone calls. We had a couple other people help us organize. We got 25 of these firms to pony up some money, and we hired a full-time state director. And there, it's a membership organization, and Christina Henderson is our state director. She's based in Missoula. That's where the main office is. And the purpose of the organization is twofold. One is to work with members to remove obstacles for growth of high-tech and high-tech manufacturing in the state. And then secondly, to shine a light on the successes of the members so that people even know they exist. Because as you said, these businesses are not on Main Street. They're going to make Main Street more vibrant because they're bringing money into the economy. But they're located in a business park someplace, and because they don't sell locally, they're not as visible as the John Deere dealership or the auto dealership because none of their customers are in the community. They just bring money into the community, and it's very similar to what we saw at Right Now Technology. So we're thrilled about it. If there's anybody out there who is running a high-tech business or is doing manufacturing that involves skilled labor, we'd love to have them sign up. The email for that is director@mthightech.org, and that'll get directly to Christina, and we'd love to get you information and get you signed up.
What are some of those obstacles? You said removing some of the obstacles for those high-tech firms.
You know, the number one thing as we've polled our members has been, I can't find qualified employees. It's kind of interesting because on the other side, the graduates are saying, I can't find jobs, right? So I think if we connect the dots there.
Here, right.
So the first thing we're going to do in the High Tech Alliance is we're putting up a high-tech and high-tech manufacturing jobs portal. So there'll be one place that all these companies across the state can post their job opportunities, and it'll be a place for people seeking employment to go and look. Now that's not up yet, but should be available within 60 days.
You're also involved in, you've been very successful, but you're pouring a lot of your own money back into the state and helping those that are in need. The ACE scholarships, scholarship for low-income families to raise the graduation rates. Tell us just a little bit about that, because we're making some headway on the graduation rates in Montana.
Yes, we are.
The superintendent of public instruction has her, but that was always just an embarrassing figure for so long in Montana.
Yeah.
When you heard the dropout rate, it was like, really?
Yeah.
And so how's the effort going on this?
Sure. Well, you're absolutely right. Today in Montana, as I understand the latest numbers, the low-income dropout rate in Montana from high school is between 27 and 29%. I think there's some new numbers that have just come out.
Right.
Almost a third of our kids from low-income families don't graduate from high school, and as a consequence, these kids are then really condemned to a life of poverty. You know, it's a moral issue. It's also a social issue because when you have lower incomes, you tend to consume more social services, but it's also, we need to provide, every child needs a great opportunity. Well, we found a program in Denver that's been operating for 15 years. It's a private sector program called ACE Scholarships. And their graduation rates are a lot worse in Denver. They only graduate 51% of the kids in Denver in the low-income neighborhoods. Only 51%. So 49% of the kids drop out. Well, they introduced this ACE program, and it provides a $2,000 a year scholarship to families that want to opt for a different schooling option. It gives parents choice about where they can go to school. They've taken the inner city Denver graduation rates with ACE scholarships from 51% to 92% over a 14-year period for the kids that receive these. So our foundation committed about $4.5 million initially, and we had great support from across the state. Governor Judy Martz, Craig Barrett, the former head of Intel, Steve Barrett, the former regent head, Jim Scott here from Billings, all serve on our advisory board.
This is your Gianforte Family Foundation?
No, this is the ACE Scholarships Advisory Board, specifically for this program. And then last fall, we raised another $2.2 million in the state mostly from our board of directors. So this year, we're offering 650 scholarships all over the state that are allowing lower income families to opt for an educational option that might be a better match for their family. And we're getting great results. We had a gal in Helena, a young girl. She was a sophomore in high school, and she wasn't happy with what was going on. She's a single mom raising this gal, and she came home and said, "Mom, I want to go to a different school." The mother said, "I don't have money to pay for that." And this young girl, sophomore in high school, was so committed to making this happen. She went and interviewed the schools to find out if anybody could help her financially. And she found out about the ACE scholarship program. And that paid about half the tuition. Because typically in a private school education in the States, about $5,000 a year. And the ACE is $2,000. So the families still have to pay some money. This is not a free ride. And then usually the schools kick a little bit in. Well, this gal went and got a job at a local fast food place for the summer, made $2,000. And she was so committed to getting into a different schooling option that she went and did that. And now she's thriving in that school. That happened just last summer, and it's a direct result of the ACE program.
And how do people learn about that? You have a website on that?
Yeah, well, acescholarships.org.
Okay.
But they can go to we have 55 schools in the state that are in the program. And we don't do promotion directly. If there's a local school they're interested in, a local private school, if you go to the acescholarships.org website, all the schools are listed. You can find the ones in your community, but then you go to the school. The school really decides who gets the scholarships. We're not picking those. All that ACE worries about is, are they below the income threshold? And typically a family of 4 that makes $41,000 a year or less would qualify for an ACE scholarship. So that's a lot of families in Montana.
So we've got about 3 minutes left in the program. So what's next for you? Because you talked about serving others, and there are those who believe you're maybe going to run for public office one day. Is that in Greg's
I'm not
future?
running for office.
Why would you want to do that? That's what was, I guess, my next question.
For me, I really do believe what I'm going to share with these students tomorrow. That I think that we're all given certain skills, and we're stewards of those skills. And we have to use them for some productive and noble purpose in serving others. My wife and I and our whole family have been incredibly blessed through the businesses we've started and the people we've been able to work with. And I'm now full-time just about giving back to the state of Montana. I think that I also have learned that when there's doubt in the outcome, there's a lot more satisfaction in the achievement. And so I've kind of zeroed in on this fact that Montana is 49th in the country in a wage scale. And I'd like to move the needle on that. And everything we've been talking about here, whether it's entrepreneurship or education, I think are the levers we need to pull to create better opportunities for our kids. And I'm going to work on that for the next 10 or 20 years. I don't know what path that's going to take me on, but I'm certainly not running for office right now. I'm just trying to move the needle.
Well, we wish you luck in that. And apparently, from some of the results you've told us about this morning, you're already moving the needle. And it sounds like you're serving your fellow man just fine, doing right what you're doing. So sometimes when you cross that line in the public service, it becomes way more difficult to serve the public for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're also with the business incubator
Yes.
in Bozeman, and I saw a little thing you said, let us know if you need some help. So, I mean, I can see a lot of people sitting out there on this Sunday morning going, I've got a great idea. So how does someone turn that great idea? And when the job summit in Butte, where I got a chance to see you back in September, there was all these people in the audience, you could tell they just wanted to tell someone about their idea and
Yes.
give me a clue of what to do. So
we have some tremendous people in the state who are going to create the next Right Now technologies. And if we were able to create 25 more Right Now technologies in the state, that would bring $120 billion of economic value into the state just in wages and the ripple effect. So if they want to get plugged into the incubator, and this is basically a free mentoring program for anybody trying to start a business in the state, they can learn more about it at the website, bozeman.com. That's the website. And then contact me over LinkedIn or Facebook, and I'll spend some time on the phone with anybody who's I do ask that they read my book first, because usually most of the advice I give in an initial consultation is in the book. It's a pretty easy read. I'm happy to send somebody a copy if they want it. They shoot me an email. But read the book, give me a call, we'll set up a time. I've done about 200 of these mentoring sessions in the last year. And, some people say, hey, the advice is worth what I paid for it, which is nothing. But some people call me back and say, hey, could you help me get to the next level? And those are the ones I want to come alongside. And I'd like to see, another 25 Right Now technologies all over the state. It can be done. The work ethic, we just need a good idea and the leadership to go along with it.
Greg, thanks for spending some time with us. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Jim.
And he does call you back, too, if you give him a call. We're proof here on the Montana Television Network. We're tickled to have him on Face the State today. Good luck with those commencement speeches, and we'll talk to you again soon down the road. We'll invite you back.
Great. Thank you very much.
Greg Gianforte here on Face the State. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday. Have a great week.
Thanks for watching Face the State. This has been a presentation of Montana's news station. Fair, accurate, to the point.